So today we're diving into a really fascinating text that tackles a modern paradox. It's this: with literally all the information in the world at our fingertips, why do so many of us still feel, well, kind of lost?
And yeah, this question is really the heart of it all. We have more access to data, to facts, to global communication than any generation in history. But instead of feeling grounded, a lot of us feel like we're just adrift. So what is actually going on here?
Well, the source points to what it calls an education deficit. The argument is that while the digital generation is totally saturated with information, many of us are missing a deeper framework for how to live. And without that kind of internal compass, it's a real struggle to build meaningful connections and, find a clear purpose.
Okay, so to really get what they're saying, the source makes this super important distinction between knowledge and what it calls true education. They might sound pretty similar, but in this context, trust me, they are worlds apart.
First up, we've got knowledge, or jishik in Korean. The source defines this as basically the accumulation of information. So think of everything you learn in a classroom. All the facts, the figures, the theories. It's the raw data you collect from elementary school all the way through university.
And then, on the flip side, we have education, or 교육. The source describes this as something way deeper. It's the training that actually builds your character, your social understanding, your personal substance. It's not about what you know, it's about who you're becoming. This table just lays it all out so clearly, doesn't it? Knowledge is information. You get it in school and it fills your mind. But true education, that's wisdom. You get that out in society and it builds your character. See the difference? One is about input, the other is about genuine personal growth.
And the source is really clear on this point. Knowledge by itself is just not enough. It argues that to actually navigate the world and build a meaningful life, a person who is just filled with facts also has to get this deeper, character-based education.
So you might be wondering, what does this true education actually look like? Well, the source breaks it down into 3 essential pillars, and they all work together to form a well-rounded person. Okay, here they are: social education, etiquette education, and character education. The source is pretty insistent that these aren't just separate subjects. Nope, they're an integrated system for developing a person who can actually contribute to the world in a meaningful way. Let's start with social education. This is your foundation. It's about understanding the big picture, right? Seeing the wider world so you can figure out where you fit in. But that's just the map. The source says you also need etiquette education, which teaches you how to navigate that map, how to interact with people respectfully. And finally, there's character education, and that's your compass, the inner work that helps you choose the right path and act with integrity.
The source puts it so simply, but it's powerful. To become a world leader, you must know the world. But it means this in the fullest sense. You've got to know the world factually, through social education. You need to know how to engage with it through etiquette, and you must have the character to serve it with wisdom. You see, true leadership needs all 3.
And this is why this is such a huge deal right now. The source points out that for baby boomers, the chances for this kind of global learning were pretty limited. For Gen X, the doors started to crack open. But for today's digital generation, the freedom to learn from the entire world is just unprecedented. The opportunity isn't just to see the world, but to truly understand how to live in it.
So where is all this heading? What's the point of it all? Well, this education is so important because, according to the source, it's the only path to finding your true human purpose.
It all comes down to this key Korean phrase, 사람답게. It roughly translates to living like a human, or maybe living in a way that's truly befitting a human. This isn't just about breathing and existing. It's about living a life that has dignity, meaning, and real intention.
And the source draws a really sharp line in the sand here. Living like a human means having a clear purpose, a duty that you are committed to. The opposite, which the source calls living like an animal, is a life that's just about seeking convenience and dodging responsibility. One path leads forward, the other leads backward.
Okay, now get ready for this, because this is where the source introduces a truly radical idea. It directly connects fulfilling your duty to your lifespan. The argument is that your time here on Earth is fundamentally tied to the purpose you are here to serve.
So the idea goes, if you neglect your duty, if you live without a purpose you're actively working towards, your lifespan will be limited to about 80 years.
But if you step up and fulfill your duty in a steady, meaningful way, you can live a full, healthy life of around 100 years. This is kind of presented as the standard for a life of purpose.
And then,
For those who take on a truly great duty, something that deeply serves the world, the source suggests a potential lifespan of up to 120 years. An extraordinary life, it argues, is tied to an extraordinary purpose.
Pretty wild, right? All right, so if finding our duty is that critical, I mean literally a matter of life, how in the world do we actually find it? The source offers one final, powerful concept as the key.
It comes down to this concept of gunbon, or the foundation. This is described as the fundamental truth of your being. It's not about what you like or what you're good at, it's about who you are at your absolute core. And this, the source claims, is where all true wisdom begins.
The logic here is actually pretty simple, but it's also really deep. All that aimless wandering, that feeling of being lost in a sea of information, it comes from not knowing your own foundation. The moment you connect with that core truth, your purpose, your duty, it all becomes clear.
This last quote really feels like a call to action for our time, you know? It suggests that our modern challenge isn't to go out and get more knowledge, but to go on an inner journey, to find that core truth within ourselves. That is the real task of our generation.
And that brings us right back to you. In an age that is just overflowing with external information, this text is urging us to look inward. It's proposing that the cure for feeling lost isn't more data, but a deeper understanding of ourselves. So it leaves us with one question. What do you think is at your core?